everyone, it's Alexis, and it's been a while since I've given you guys a little bit of an update, but I I've not been MIA. One of the last things I filmed was towards the end of May, and I did film my May reads June TBR. Never got around to uploading it. Maybe I should just leave it in the lost files because I was literally talking my junk for that May reads. But the summer was crazy for me. I barely read over the summer, and last month for September, I didn't read a single page. Right, and so obviously that needs to change. So for my current reads, I'm sitting at 32 books read out of 50 for the year. My unofficial goal is 100, meaning I need to ideally read a minimum of 18 more books, but ideally 68 more books. I'm gonna do that. So we have October, November, and December. We're gonna kill that goal. For my October reads, I've already pre-planned everything. I'm just gonna show you guys what I got. For my first book, I'm going to read Alex Rider, Skeleton Key. So this book is something that a buddy gave me. She wanted me to get into the basic Alex Rider trilogy. I believe it's one of those things where it's like a main trilogy, but then there's other books in the series. But I just never finished reading this one. I read the first two and I just never read this one. So this series is basically like a kid-friendly action adventure type of series. Good read, it's pretty smooth. So this one, I'm interested to know exactly what it is. It seems pretty fun. Next book I have, actually the next few books I have are for a video, which I am going to be reading popular books that I never read. So we have The Fault in Our Stars, the FNAF series. So I'm just going to read the first book of this series, which is The Silver Eyes. Hunger Games, and again I'm just reading the first book of the series, and finally getting to Harry Potter. And I do want to say I do not support this author. I am definitely separating the art from the artist, but I'm finally getting into it. So just to backtrack, The Fault in Our Stars, from what I understand, is a contemporary romance book. I meant to read this a few months ago. In fact, that same buddy that let me read the Alex Rider series, she is the one who let me get this book. I know that the main character is sick. She finds love in like this boy that comes around. I don't really know the background, but I've never seen the movie. I've never read the book, so I can't wait to do this. And again, we have the FNAF series, Silver Eyes. So from what I understand, FNAF, a lot of the lore is in the books. And the books essentially tie the games together, if that makes sense. So I believe this book came out in 2015, but I think that once it got past the main trilogy and he started adding other books, I believe he started to reveal more lore in those. So anyways, if I enjoy the trilogy, I will get the other books and just do a whole review. Love FNAF. I've literally seen every game except Help Wanted. 1 or 2. But for this one, it says 10 years after the horrific murders at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzas that ripped their town apart, Charlie, whose father owned the restaurant, and her childhood friends reunite on the anniversary of the tragedy and find themselves at the old pizza place, which had been locked up and abandoned for years. After they discover a way inside, they realize that things are not as they used to be. The 4 adult-sized animatronic mascots that once entertained patrons have changed. They now have a dark secret and a murderous agenda. This does seem like a good introduction book, especially if you've never seen any of the games. Can't wait to get into this. And then Hunger Games. So this is another one I'm like, I got peer pressured into because it seems good, like genuinely good. So from what I understand, that this is either a dystopian or utopian. It's one of the other. I can never remember which one. And should I read the back? Okay, I'm gonna read it. In the ruins of a place once known as North America lies the nation of Panem, a shining capital surrounded by 12 outlying districts. The capital is harsh and cruel and keeps the districts in line by forcing them all to send one boy and one girl between the ages of 12 and 18 to participate in the annual Hunger Games, a fight to the death on live TV. 16-year-old Katniss Everdeen regards it as a death sentence when she steps forward to take her sister's place in the games. But Katniss has been close to death before, and survival for her is second nature. Without really meaning to, she becomes a contender. But if she is to win, she will have to start making choices that weigh survival against humanity and life against love. Again, when you see series, it's like, if you know any basic knowledge about what the series is about, it's always like the first book is just the introduction. So I don't really feel like I have any spoilers. That's pretty much all I know about Hunger Games. The same thing about FNAF. And then Harry Potter. I've actually always wanted to get into Harry Potter. I just never did for whatever reason, but I am very excited. So on the back of this, I don't even know I should read it. Harry Potter's and the Sorcerer's Stone. Harry Potter has never played a sport while flying on a broomstick. He's never worn a cloak of invisibility, befriended a giant, or helped hatch a dragon. All Harry knows is a miserable life within the Dursleys, his horrible aunt and uncle, and their abominable son, Dudley. Harry's room is a tiny closet at the foot of the stairs, and he hasn't had a birthday party in 11 years. But then a mysterious letter arrives by Owl Messenger, a letter with an invitation to an incredible place called Hogwarts, School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. And there he finds not only friends, aerial sports, and magic around every corner, but a great destiny that's been waiting for him if Harry can survive the encounter. So again, that's really all I know about Harry Potter. I've seen bits and pieces of really all the movies, but I've never seen a single one of the movies from start to finish. All of these books, but mainly these, I've been waiting to get into them. I got these books for my birthday and I've just been saving them for the right occasion. But I feel like the first books would just be very slow, but once I get into the series, I feel like I'm gonna really be intrigued. So my plan for these is that all 4 of these books are going to be one video called Reading Popular Books I've Never Read. But then later on, closer to December, I'll read each of these 3 book series and then do individual videos for each of the book series. So cannot wait to share that with you guys. Now after that, I have been subscribed to Book of the Month ever since April, and I have not read a single one of my Book of the Month books. So I am excited to read those. So I don't know if you guys can see it, but on my bookshelf, they take up the whole bottom row right here. Let me adjust that for you guys. It's kind of hard to see, but they're right here. So I have All We Were Promised, Ministry of Time, Lion Women of Tehran, Lost Story, Wedding People, 5-Star Stranger, A Song to Drown Rivers, Mad Woman, and The Love Elixir of Augusta Stern. So I have just been holding on to these books, trying to wait for the right time. Again, that'll be its own video called I Finally Tried Book of the Month. When I read all of those books, I don't know if I'll give a whole review for each of them, but just saying how I like Book of the Month, has it actually helped me to find new books, which it has. Just my thoughts on the whole subscription service, the pricing of it, the book selection, stuff like that. So I can't wait to read all these books. And then after that, I do have another video where I am rereading a bunch of old books from middle school, high school. So the first one is Fahrenheit 451. I mean, let's talk about it. This book gave me chills then. I still think about it to this day. Even though I've only read it once, I still remember it for the most part. I am so excited to reread this. This book ate like it had no business eating, but it's also very relevant. So when I was in 9th grade, that was the 16-17 school year. But that's also around the time when you know who became president. And especially since his term, it's become a big thing to talk about censorship. Some areas in the U.S. have tried to ban books and stuff like that, which is so interesting. This book, I believe, came out in the 1950s, and it was talking about censorship and the negative effects of too much censorship. It's very interesting to see it now from modern day eyes. But this is a good book. Again, it's a dystopian, utopian, I always forget the difference, but this is a book that's set in a different universe than us, but it's still our universe. But in this universe, there's censorships. If you are caught with any of these censored materials, which I believe it was books that were banned. Yeah, books that were banned. Obviously bad things will happen to you. This kind of reminds me of The Giver in a sense, where people were restricted from anything outside of what they were told to do or told to be. The Giver is another good book. I need to buy a copy of that. Oh my goodness. But this right here, if you've never read this book, get it. This is something that genuinely is a 5-star read. The Red Badge of Courage. So this was not my favorite book at all. I'm not a fan of historical fiction. It wasn't bad, but it's just one of those things where I read it and I spent most of my time trying to make notes of it and all that. It says, young Henry Fleming dreams of finding glory and honor as a Union soldier in the American Civil War, yet he also harbors a hidden fear about how he may react when the horror and bloodshed of battle began. Fighting the enemy without and the terror within, Fleming must prove himself and find his own meaning of valor. Again, this is about Civil War times and stuff like that, so this is not something that I will ever pick up, but I do remember this being something that you can read through it and not be as bored as you thought you would be. So again, I will give you guys an update when the time comes, but I'm not looking forward to this. Enemy Women. This is another book that you look at, you're like, why they got us reading this? But it was really good. I haven't read it since, I want to say 2017, but I do remember it being like a lot better than I thought it would be. And this is also historical fiction. For the colonies of southeastern Missouri, the war between the states is a plague that threatens devastation despite the family's avowed neutrality. For 18-year-old Adair Colley, it is a nightmare that tears apart her family and forces her and her sisters to flee. The treachery of a fellow traveler, however, begins about her arrest, and she is caged with a criminal and deranged in a filthy women's prison. But young Adair finds that love can live even in a place of horror and despair. Her interrogator, a Union major, falls in love with her and vows to return for her when the fighting is over. Before he leaves for battle, he bestows upon her a precious gift, freedom. Now an escaped enemy woman, Adair must make her harrowing way south by a promise, seeking a home and a family that may be nothing more than a memory. Again, you look at this book, and unless you are a historical fiction girly, it's just like, okay. But when I say I remember being shook, this is a good book. As someone who doesn't really like historical fiction, or I don't really like the romance, I do really love how much emotion it was in this book, how you can understand how this is a serious situation, how they were just in this very unfortunate circumstance, but also I love the forbidden love trope. Good book. And last, Jane Eyre. If you know me, this was my first maybe 6-star read. Like, this right here, again, you look at it, it's like, oh, another old, book about some white girl in tragedy. Oh, this book right here, shook. Jane Eyre had no business eating like that. Look at this book. You would never look at this book and be like, oh, this is a bust down. This book, poor and plain, Jane Eyre begins life as a lonely orphan in the household of her hateful aunt. Despite the oppression she endures at home and then later at the harsh boarding school she is sent to, Jane manages to emerge with her spirit and integrity unbroken. She becomes a governess at Thornfield Hall, where she finds herself falling in love with her employer, the dark, impassioned Mr. Rochester. But an explosive secret tears apart their relationship, forcing Jane to face poverty and isolation once again before finally finding happiness. This book right here, it's so messy. It's one of those things where Jane is the ugly duckling, and her life is tragedy. Shakespeare couldn't even write this. Like, I forgot Charlotte's backstory, but it's like once you know her history, it's like, oh, like she had a good old Cinderella life herself. But Miss Jane, misery after misery after misery after misery. She couldn't catch a break. And then when she finally starts to feel happy, drama, messiness, lots of misunderstanding. Then boom, more tragedy happens. I can't spoil it, but girl, there are a few slow parts because this book is, I think it's like 600 some pages. This book is, this book is 524 pages. So yes, there are a few parts in here that are slow. But I remember going back to school, I was like, girl, this book ate. And a lot of people really didn't like it. And I think really it's because they probably just weren't mature enough to get it, or they probably just didn't care enough about these type of situations. But if you were someone who was like, hey, you have childhood trauma, maybe you've had relationship trauma, maybe you've been through some things, or you've seen people around you go through some things, like if you like good drama but like a good juicy plot, everywhere you look misery is there, but it does have a good ending. It's like, this is a perfect book. This right here, I can go on for days and days and days about it, but I've only read it all the way once. When I read this again, baby, this might have to get its own little review. Like, this book right here, Jane Eyre, Miss Charlotte, she ate down. So again, these 4 books are going to be a part of a video talking about all high school reads. So I cannot wait to show you guys that and give you guys an update on all of those. I almost included this in it, but we had this project in 12th grade. We can get any of Dan Brown's books. I bought both Origin and Da Vinci Code. I never read Da Vinci Code and I chose Origin. Origin 8, but Origin is his most recent book out of the Robert Langdon series. I think this is one of the earlier, maybe the first book in the series, so it's older. I know a lot of people don't like Dan Brown's writing because they say like hints of sexism, but in Origin I didn't see that, so I don't know if maybe over the years he got better. So I'm a little nervous to read this, but people say this book is so good. So I cannot wait to get into it. I was also intrigued because I love Leonardo da Vinci. I love his work. I love everything about it. I'm not sure exactly like how it parallels, but if you want some type of like adventure, problem solving, puzzle solving type of book, this is definitely it. I know it's a lot of action, and I'm just speaking on Origin now. A lot of action, a lot of juiciness, so definitely check Origin out. This will be its own book review. Maybe I'll try to read Origin in there too, not sure. And then I have this other video where I'm reading books I've actually never heard of. So these are the 2 books that I'm going to be reading in October. And then I have a few more books that I'll be reading in November. One book is called The Happiness Project. And actually one of my old professors gave me this book. But this book, I believe it's about a woman depicting her life and how she was not happy, just living like the typical day-to-day and just not really feeling fulfilled, and how she decided to work on herself, which I hope that it's a good book, because looking at the reviews, it doesn't really seem like it has good reviews. Anything that involves being a better version of yourself, I love that. So I hope that this book is as good as I want it to be. And then The First to Lie. I actually saw this book at Dollar Tree, which is interesting because I know Dollar Tree has books, but not like whole good quality books like this. So First to Lie, I believe it's some type of like thriller or mystery type of book, which y'all know is up my alley. So it says, we all have our reasons for being who we are, but what if being someone else could get you what you want? So that kind of reminds me of The 5-Star Stranger, actually. After a devastating betrayal, a young woman sets off on an obsessive path to justice no matter what dark family secrets are revealed. What she doesn't know is that she isn't the only one plotting her revenge. Interesting. So, I can't wait to read this book. It's a little over, it's almost 400 pages. Oh my god. But for this month, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 21 physical books, and then I do have a few digital reads I want to get to. I'm just not exactly sure which ones I want to read right now, but I cannot wait to just really be back into my reading girl era. And now, due to, I hate to say it, Hurricane Helene, I have a little bit more time to read. Things are starting to get a little bit better in the city. I do live in Augusta, Georgia, and things are slowly but surely trying to get a little bit better. But I will say that if you guys are ever in an emergency situation or whatever, the best thing to have is your loved ones around, family, friends. Try to be calm, try to be patient, try to just not worry as much as you can. But definitely, if you have the resources to help anyone in need, definitely take the time out of your day to help them. While you're at home, you have all the time in the world to read a good book, to pick up new hobbies, do art, whatever the case may be. So I guess I'm trying to look at the bright side of things in terms of that. I hope that everyone remains safe. Hope that everyone is able to find some source of happiness in this. For people who are not affected by Hurricane Helene, I hope that no tragedy comes your way. And everybody have an amazing October. Everyone have an amazing month. Rest of your year. Be safe, be happy, and read 1001 books. With that being said, thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time.